boy, they messed this episode up big time. To mistranslations, to just like how it's actually kind of a time skip that skips over an entire arc. This is going to confuse a lot of anime onlys. There is a lot about this episode that just does not sit right with me, because it does in no shape or form try to let anime onlys know, yeah, we just cut over an arc, and you can see that there's obviously details missing by the information that's kind of presented in this episode. And the reason why there was content missing, or why an arc has been skipped over, is because if you didn't know, an Overlord movie is incoming. Like, there's going to be an Overlord movie, and it was announced a while back. It's going to be on the Holy Kingdom arc, and basically that arc was technically supposed to happen after the previous arc that just finished. And this arc that we're now getting into for the anime was going to be taking place after the Holy Kingdom arc. Now, the reason for this restructuring of the plot is, to my guess, for censorship reasons, and let me explain. When it comes to the Holy Kingdom arc, it is a very dark arc. Like, it's dark. It really is. There is a lot of horrific stuff in the Holy Kingdom arc, and I feel like they really want to properly present that arc in the best possible form they can, and so that is why the arc is being entirely presented in an Overlord movie. And also, let's be honest, movies are a big thing now when it comes to anime, so yeah, you might as well cash in on some easy money, since anime movies are kind of the new craze nowadays. Everybody has to have a movie. But, with that out of the way, with the content that kind of was not rushed over, just, cut out because they're making a movie on it, then we have this right here, which you can see on screen, the theocracy, which is something that, okay, so there's multiple times, like, throughout this, like, episode when you see the characters are like, talking to each other, where, like, they mention the theocracy. And if you're an anime only, you will not catch it. You will have no idea what is, like, really off with this episode. You would read it, you'd read the subtitles, you would carry on, and that's about it. You wouldn't think probably too deeply about the theocracy and what's going on there. But if you remember anything from, let's say, the previous stuff that's happened in Overlord Season 1, 2, and 3, if you have rewatched them recently, or you have a really good memory, you'll know that the theocracy is, like, one of the few factions in the Overlord series that is basically openly hostile towards Ainz' faction. They're one of the very few factions that are openly hostile. And so when you have that being mentioned throughout the episode, like, Ainz is sending support and supplies to the theocracy, you're like, whoa, what is going on here? You're going to be asking yourself, like, what happened? And then instantly your mind's going to start thinking, okay, does this have something to do with the arc we just got completely cut over? Like, the Holy Kingdom arc. Well, that's the funny thing. The theocracy is actually a mistranslation. 100% a mistranslation. And what I mean is, I'm not talking about something like properly misspelled or mispronounced, nothing like that. No. I'm talking about when they say the theocracy multiple times throughout this episode, they're actually meaning the Holy Kingdom. And this isn't just the way of pronouncing the name. They're two separate factions. The Holy Kingdom and the theocracy are completely two separate entities in the Overlord universe. To make sure we're all on the same page, it's like calling Goku Frieza and Frieza Goku. That is the equivalent of what they did in this episode's translations. Now, I know for a fact that translating is hard, and no hate towards the translator, because obviously, at the end of the day, the translator is human. There is circumstances behind the scenes that none of us just have no idea about. We will probably never get the understanding or full story to what happened behind the scenes and why the translations are messed up. We will probably never get confirmation of why that actually happened, but the point, though, is that it is a major mistranslation. It is not something as simple as just mispronouncing something or choosing to call it in a different way, or even for copyright reasons like JoJo does. It is straight up calling something else completely something else entirely. Like, for instance, like calling Goku Frieza and Frieza Goku. That's literally what they did. So, the fact that they say theocracy in the subtitles while they're saying the Holy Kingdom throughout the episode, and the Holy Kingdom is the arc that was cut over, and that's why Ainz is sending support to it because of the arc that was cut over and being turned into a movie, that just gives you everything you need to understand. So it's just like, whoa, That's just, yeah, they done messed up. Like, they done messed up when it came to this episode's translations, and it is going to confuse the hell out of people going forward if this does not get corrected. And if they, like, for instance, the next episode comes out and they start calling things the Holy Kingdom, people are gonna be like, whoa, what's going on now? Now they're sending support to the Holy Kingdom, not the Theocracy. This is just gonna cause so much, just messed up discussion for the series. Oh, it's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna legitimately be a nightmare, because people are gonna probably assume that's like, oh, it's just the way they want to translate it. No, it's something else entirely, as I already kind of made my point. But, yeah, that's something that needed to be talked about. It needed to get cleared out of the way first before I get into anything else. Now, when it comes to this episode, obviously, there is quite an interesting start to this arc. For one, we have hostilities towards the Sorcerer's Kingdom, or Ainz' faction, Nazarick, the first time they've truly ever been actually attacked since they've been out in the open. And the reason why they were attacked is because of a dumb noble. For instance, at the beginning of, the episode, you had this dumb noble here pretty much start drinking with a bunch of nobles, and he gets this bright idea to attack one of the carriages that is transporting food, not to the Theocracy, even though they say it this episode, the Holy Kingdom. They get the bright idea to attack a transport carriage that is sending food and supplies to this other kingdom that is under the occupation of Ainz. They decided to attack it. And obviously, if you were to do something, attack merchants on the road or carriage in medieval times or any times, that is seen like open hostilities. Like, you're being hostile to a faction that is remaining neutral and not really aggressive towards you. So the obvious reaction would be potentially war. That is legitimately the truth. And so Ainz' overall reaction, even if you look at the situation of how it kind of boils at the end with everybody's ideas, etc., typically the normal reaction would make sense. It's like, we're traveling our goods through your kingdom. You should technically not allow this to happen, but somehow it happens. It's your fault, and legitimately it kind of is. They shouldn't have allowed that to happen to begin with, and the nobles should not have allowed that to happen. So the fact it happened definitely proves the point. So something has to happen, some form of punishment, etc. But obviously we know where this is possibly going. A very darker perspective, because obviously at the end, the ending credits, Albedo, appears before the court to speak to the king, and the king himself says, look, I will offer my head if, that will be enough, which is kind of in a contrast to what Ainz said earlier on in this episode, when, Albedo was, trying to take fault for basically, the issue at hand of how Hilma made a mistake, and then Ainz takes responsibility for Albedo, and that's kind of in contrast to, what the king did here. So I like that. It plays really nicely together, basically showing that even if Ainz was making mistakes, or just going by, just really playing it one second by second, he was kind of playing the part as a king, as a good person that was trying to take responsibility for the people underneath him. It's an interesting episode because it obviously sets up a war. Our first actual real war we're going to get to see. Yeah, we saw a mock battle on the plains, etc., but this is our first real glimpse of a war between two established factions, and we know how strong Ainz' faction is. So when you look at this, episode, you're like, oh crap, some bad stuff's about to happen, and a lot of these characters that, we've gotten to know over the seasons are probably about to die, because it's Overlord. That's just what it is. But it doesn't stop there as well. We also got to factor in a few other things. We got the stuff with, Hilma here, and it really just goes to show, how Hilma was once a part of this shady faction, this evil faction, and we've kind of seen this, demonstrated in the previous seasons, establish her character a little bit, and getting to see that she is so scared of Nazarick, so scared of the NPCs, because she has just been basically tortured. All the other people around her have been tortured. She is frightened of the fact that whatever goes on, thanks to the mistakes of the noble, she's about to probably die or something. But, in fact, she doesn't, and she basically starts to rejoice, basically, when everything is done. She goes back and all that, and she realizes that Ainz saved her, and she basically tells the other nobles, when, she goes back, I'm happy that he's such a glorious person. She kind of demonstrates in some way affection or love towards Ainz, and it's like, Albedo is not going to like that. Albedo is not going to be happy with the fact that someone else potentially has a crush on Ainz, because Albedo would just crush her. Now, obviously, there is some cut content to this episode that does need to be discussed, and one of the big pieces of cut content is the Noble scene right here. So basically, the whole orchestration of the Noble that was so stupid to attack Ainz' carriage, that was a scene in the light novel that we got to see kind of, described, etc. And this entire episode, it cuts it out. We don't actually get to see the Noble leading the charge and attacking the carriage, etc. And overall, if I had to think from, the light novel, thinking back to the light novel and what I read, yes, what the Noble did is very stupid. It's fascinating to see how someone could just be so stupid. But in the grand scheme of things, even though the content sucks, and it sucks that we didn't actually get to see it for this episode, it's nothing that really takes away from this entire episode. I will say that. It doesn't take anything away. It would just been nice to see it, but even though we didn't see it, it was described, and we know that the attack happened, and so, yeah, we know the Noble one day is going to be punished. That's about it. But the point is that is one of the biggest pieces of content I could say that was really cut throughout this episode. But yeah. Anyways, I guess I'm going to wrap up the video here. Just wanted to talk about a few things. If you enjoyed the video and I brought in any new information to you and you were shocked or whatever to learn some of the things that were cut or missing, etc., do let me know in the comments below and leave me a like. It does help me out a lot, and it helps with the algorithm and more of my videos to appear and more people to find my videos. But anyways, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.